Now we're going to continue reading on our Pride and Prejudice, Chapter 10, Part 2. "I see your design, Mr. Bingley," said his friend. "You dislike an argument and want you silent thus. Perhaps I do. Arguments are too much like disputes. If you and Miss Bennet will defer yours until I am out of this room, I shall be very thankful. And then you may say whatever you like out of me." "What you ask," said Elizabeth, "is not sacrifice on my side, and Mr. Darcy had much better finish this letter." Mr. Darcy took her advice and did finish his letter. When that business was over, he applied to Miss Bingley and Elizabeth for the indulgence of some music. Mrs. Bingley moved with alacrity to the pianoforte, and after a polite request that Elizabeth would lead the way, which the other as politely and more earnestly negatived, she seated herself. Mistress Hurst sang with her sister, and while they were thus employed, Elizabeth could not help observing as she turned over some music books that lay on the instrument how frequently Mr. Darcy's eyes were fixed on her. She hardly knew how to suppose that she could be an object of admiration to so great a man, and yet that he should look at her because she disliked her was still more strange. He could only imagine, however, at last that she drew his notice because there was a something about her more wrong and reprehensible, according to his ideas of right, than in any other person present. The supposition did not pain her. She liked him too little to care for his approbation. After playing some Italian songs, Miss Bingley varied the charm by a lively Scotch air, and soon afterwards Mr. Darcy, drawing near Elizabeth, said to her, "Don't you feel a great inclination, Miss Bingley, to seize such an opportunity of dancing a reel?" She smiled, but made no answer. He repeated the question, with the same surprise at her silence. "Oh," said she, "I heard you before, but I could not immediately determine what you said in reply. You wanted me, I know, say yes, that you might have the pleasure of despising my taste. But I always delight in overthrowing those kind of schemes, and cheating a person of their premeditated contempt. I have therefore made up my mind to tell you that I don't want to dance a reel at all, and now despise me if you dare." "Indeed, I don't dare." Elizabeth had rather expected to affront him, was amazed at his gallantry, but there was a mixture of a sweetness and archness in her manner which made it difficult for her to affront anybody, and Darcy had never been so bewitched by any woman as he was by her. He really believed that were it not for the inferiority of her connections, he should be in some danger. Mrs. Bingley saw or suspected enough to be jealous, and her great anxiety for the recovery of her dear friend Jane received some assistance from her desire for getting rid of Elizabeth. She often tried to provoke Darcy into disliking her guest by talking of their supposed marriage and planning his happiness in such an alliance. "I hope," said she, as they were walking together in the shrubbery the next day, "you will give your mother-in-law a few hints, when the desirable event takes place, as to the advantage of holding her tongue, and if you can compass it, to curb the younger girls of running after the officers, and, if I may mention so delicate a subject, endeavor to check that little something, bordering on conceit and impertinence, which your lady possesses. Have you anything else to propose for my domestic felicity?" "Oh, yes. Do let the portraits of your uncle and aunt Phillips be placed in a gallery at Pemberley. Put them next to the great uncle the judge. They are in the same profession, you know, only in different lines. As for your Elizabeth's picture, you must not attempt to have it taken, for what painters could do justice to those beautiful eyes? It would not be easy, indeed, to catch their expression, but their color and shape, and the eyelashes, so remarkably fine, might be copied." At that moment they were met from another walk by Mrs. Hurst and Elizabeth herself. "I did not know that you intended to walk," said Mrs. Bingley in some confusion, lest they had been overheard. "You used us abnormally ill," answered Mrs. Hurst, "in running away without telling us that you were coming out." Then, taking the disengaged arm of Mr. Darcy, she led Elizabeth to walk by herself the path just admitted 3. Mr. Darcy felt their rudeness and immediately said, "This walk is not wide enough for our party. We had better to go into the avenue." But Elizabeth, who had not the least inclination to remain with them, laughingly answered, "No, no, stay where you are. You are charmingly grouped, and appear to uncommon advantage. The picture's quit would be spoiled by admitting a fourth. Goodbye." She then ran gaily off, rejoicing as she rambled about, in the hope of being at home again in a day or 2. Jane was already so much recovered as to intend leaving her room for a couple of hours that evening. That's all for the part of today's show. And please drop a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel as always. And I will see you in my next couple videos. Bye. And also, don't forget to click the subscribe button and to subscribe me for my channel. And I will be continuing with tomorrow. Stay tuned for Pride and Prejudice Chapter 11.